Abdul Moomin ending Komo or General Secretary Emma Ghana Mine Workers Union. Abdul, it's good to have you on the show this morning.
Good to hear from you too. And let me take this opportunity to say good morning to all your listeners and to all your colleagues in the studio.
And I'm hoping that everything is fine.
Well, by God's grace, we are managing amidst all the pressures that we are all aware of within the economy. We are managing.
So what have your members been saying when it comes to this debt exchange program that the government has laid?
Well, our members are asking very fundamental questions. Number one, how did we get here? Number two, now who caused them, you know? So we are told that our debt has reached an unsustainable level. But the question is, how do we get here? And then if you don't go borrow, you won't increase your debt, and you won't get to a point where you will say you have gone over and above sustainable levels. And so clearly, there's a cost to where we are, or there's a reason why we are where we are. And it's important that we all acknowledge it. Okay? Now, our members are saying that if you borrow to put in productive sectors of the economy, with the expectation that you will turn it around and be able to, number one, pay back the loans or the debts that you have entered into, and number two, also be able to meet all the social, infrastructure or social investments that citizens of this country are expecting from their government.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this borrowing has been done, but we haven't seen all the tangible. In fact, there have been some social interventions, i.e., the free senior high school program that government rolled out. There have been series of critique to the extent that we need to look at it, review, such that we can accommodate government's position on free senior high school, but also make sure that it is relevant, to the system. Unfortunately, it is the usual intransigence. We believe that this is the way to go. It's a campaign promise. It doesn't matter if we commit all our revenue into funding free senior high school. We don't really give a damn. All of this has contributed to where we are. Now, today we are being told that because of the debt level, we need to exchange whatever domestic bonds that we have entered into with our farm managers, such that government in turn would issue new bonds. And the question then becomes, what are the terms and conditions? One thing that we must also remember is that in getting into the bond agreements, we have already agreed on certain specific terms and conditions. And so if government is coming out with these, new terms and conditions to the extent that my maturity in terms of the bond is going to go beyond, is going to about 2037 and all of that. Over and above that, the coupon rate or the interest rate that is being offered to our members is way below what their expectations are. And so if you are a pensioner, given the current economic conditions, given the fact that inflation is over and above 40%, already your investments are under the water. Under the water because no investor or no investment house is going to give you interest rate over and above inflation. And so the real value of your investment is below the water. And so what we are saying and what our members are saying is that our pensions are critical because whilst working actively and earning income, we also save for a rainy day. Such that when we go on pension, we can rely on retirement pension. And so the question is, why would you want to tamper with my pensions, hard-earned pensions that I have contributed with the hope that when I go on retirement, I'll be able to get retirement pension? And so as a union, and for that matter, our members we are vehemently opposed to government's position of a debt restructuring that would impact on our pension, a debt restructuring that will impact on our life savings. Because, at the micro level, I have made my investment decisions. And I expect that government that has the responsibility to ensure that they sustain and stabilize the macroeconomic environment is required to do so. And so if I put aside my little savings, the expectation is that I should be able to get, some reasonable returns on those savings.
All right, interesting.
But if all these things are coming up, and I am, number one, likely to lose my interest on these savings, and also likely to lose up my principal in terms of investment, it's certainly a worry for every worker in this country.
Interesting position on the concerns of your members, but are these concerns not allayed by the provisions that the document provided, that there's going to be a fund, a stabilization fund, and that this fund is going to ensure that all these concerns you're raising about your pensions are catered for? And this morning, one of the papers has reported that some 15 billion is being allocated towards these concerns you're raising.
Interesting position there. I mean, as for policy, that is the best way to develop policy. Once you put forward a position and there's a potential lacuna somewhere, you must have a way to fill it. So, yes, a fund can be created to respond to some of these concerns. But it's a question of what is our history about funds. All the funds that we have created, you go in there and there's virtually nothing in there. So clearly, it's a confidence issue. And I think that over and above what government is putting forward, investor confidence is waning. Investor confidence is waning. And we need to be extremely careful, because as a developing economy, we need to imbibe in our citizens the culture of saving. And so if, an informal worker who goes to Kantamatu every day and comes back home raises something out of the minimum wage that he earns every day and puts it into savings, and these savings are likely to be impacted in a manner that government is advancing its course, then clearly it becomes quite problematic. So the general investor confidence is the issue here. So the fund may be there to respond to the policy position that government is advancing. But at the end of the day, the history behind government funds has usually been quite problematic for us.
So it's a case of believability. You don't believe, you don't have confidence in the preferred solutions of government to alleviate these concerns you're talking about.
My brother, you know why we don't have confidence? You see, when you impose boilerplate positions on people, what is likely to happen is the resistance you will see. Organized labor has stated categorically that the management of Ghana and its economy, is the responsibility of all of us. And so government going into such a strategic option of debt restructuring, government ought to have identified all the key stakeholders who are relevant to this whole debt restructuring agenda. Organized labor certainly cannot be wished away. Unfortunately, government decided not to consult organized labor. And so we do not have any confidence in the propositions that are being put forward by government. Because at the end of the day, once bitten, twice shy. We have seen too many, things that have emboldened us to believe that this is not likely to go the way we expected. And remember also that most of these things are being put together, to respond to the cameras. Because as far as I am concerned, we have an IMF, bailout, situation on our hands, which we are trying to put together. And for that matter, some of these demands obviously are being put together in a certain response. So these are some of the things that as Ghanaian workers, we believe that government must tread cautiously. Our pensions cannot be touched. At the end of the day, we have over 80% of our pension contributions in government bonds. And any attempt to restructure government debt with focus on government bonds, government must be prepared to respect the original terms and conditions of bondholders rather than the attempt to impose new terms and conditions on bondholders and potential bondholders.
There's a final question I would ask you, and that has to do with the point of burden sharing that the finance minister has been drumming home, that we are in crisis. His Excellency the President admitted that, and that our economy is in deep waters. And so is it not the time that we should all be considering, carrying some of the burden per the finance minister's address?
Well, out of burden sharing, you can make that point. But again, let's go back to the basics. Right from the commencement of Nana Addo's government, there has been serious concerns about the size of government. There's no single, well-meaning Ghanaian in our society that hasn't raised the issue about the need for Nana Addo to cut down the size of his government. The president has been intransigent. He will not listen to anybody. He believes that, for the most part of it, those ministers that are seen as performing abysmally are actually his high-performing ministers. And so if the government says that he knows it all and this is his position on these matters, then how do you expect an ordinary citizen of this country to burden share? How do you expect that to happen? And so government needs to walk the talk. Government needs to demonstrate to the citizenry that indeed we are committed, we feel the pinch, we are ready to sacrifice, we are ready to burden share. And to burden share, we are starting from within our own government. We're reducing the number of ministers. And there have been several propositions on how many ministers can effectively and efficiently run this economy. But government will not budge. The position of government is that I'll keep that large government because I believe that it is efficient. And so, my brother, nobody is saying that there shouldn't be burden sharing. But it is the cause. It's the cause of why we are where we are that is giving a lot of doubt to the citizenry, whether or not government pronouncements are indeed germane. Okay? Now, if you look at the current government, they came into power on the back of, industrialization. They came to power on the back of, we're going to make sure that we move Ghana from the Gadgetsburg economy into an industrialized economy. Okay? The question is, what have they done? Because value addition is the way to go. Industrialization is the way to go. Because at the end of the day, all we know to do is raw material exportation. And indeed, the position of government at the time was the most, effective position to pursue. So if we continue to export all our raw materials without adding value, what that means is that we are actually shipping or exporting our own revenue into other economies, exporting jobs into other economies. And so the fundamentals of the economy would remain the way it is. Okay? Post-2037, if we don't do something dramatic about the current structure of our economy, I can assure you that we will remain where we are today in 2037. And so all we're just doing is scratching the surface and making it sound like we are trying to solve a problem or managing, the expectations of Ghanaians, because Ghanaians are complaining about the untold hardships in the system. So, my brother, the issue on hand is a big issue,
all right, and
it requires leadership. And we expect leadership to be communicating more, more practically to the Ghanaian citizens. It is not just by lip service. We'll make sure we stop driving V8s unless we are driving across. We are going cross country. We'll make sure you don't print calendars and all of those things. At the end of the day, there are bigger ticket issues that we need to deal with.
All right. Abdul, thank you for joining me this morning on the show.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
Ghana Mine Workers Union, their General Secretary, Abdul Moomin, joining us this morning on the show.